understand your question right, you're asking how should boards and audit committees conduct themselves or discharge their governance role in relation to financial reporting
Exactly.
and to enhance the credibility of financial reporting.
Yes.
And let's put it in perspective. The reality today, and this is not just in India, across the world, even as uh, early as 2000, when Enron first happened, the credibility of financial reporting was shattered or came to an absolute nadir. And since then, there have been a number of corrections or institutions, the PCAOB in the US, the Sarbanes-Oxley in the US, Indian regulators, NFRA, and if you look at it, there have been corporate failures or failures in financial reporting across the world. Even in India, the most recent Gensol, or you talk of the Wirecard in Europe, or many others. It raises the fundamental question: what were the directors doing? And all of these entities have been audited by the best firms. They had the best boards, they had the best systems, and they are top in their field. And if you go back again in 1998, the chief of the Securities Exchange Commission, Sir Arthur Levitt, it's like the SEBI chairman equivalent, he said that most financial statements in the United States were cooked up. Some gently cooked and some perhaps completely roasted. And that coming from a regulator of the mecca of the accounting world was shocking. True enough, 2 years later Enron happened. Then you had WorldCom, QWest, whole host of things. Then in Europe you had Royal Hold, you had Parmalat. Then much more recent, every Fortune or number of Fortune 500 companies had holes in their financial statements. Not just holes, maybe craters in their financial statements. So it raises this fundamental question: what are boards doing? Now, to put it in perspective, boards or any member of the board or member of the audit committee spends on an average 75, max 100 hours in a year. He has spends time in board meetings, and there could be 6 to 8 board meetings in a year spread over 1 or 2 days. You do your own math. A member of the board does not look at the books of accounts. He does not look at the ledger, he does not look at transactions, he does not look at vouchers. He is not involved in day-to-day management. Yet you are expecting that that person discharges a governance role. And I'll tell you what the person does. The second is, given the very stringent laws on insider trading, and every blue chip company is worried about its information going out into the market. Therefore, they provide the board of directors and even the members of the audit committee financial statements either on the date of the meeting, day of the meeting, or at best the previous day. They don't give 1 week in advance or 10 days in advance. Nobody gets it. The only people who get it are the statutory auditors and members of the finance function. That is the hard reality. So the most brilliant chartered accountant, if you paste a 300-page document onto the table of the board meeting and he is a director, he can't find anything. He can't go through the 300 pages in those when he's sitting in a board meeting or even the previous day. How then do you expect governance to be discharged? The way one does it is depend on the 3 mechanisms which are there. You have the third line of defense, which is the internal audit. You have the statutory auditors, and you have, of course, the finance team who make a presentation on the financials. So most boards and most audit committees would not have even read the financial statements with all that disclosures you talk about, the accounting standards, all that. Instead, they listen to the auditors. They pay attention to the auditors for because the auditors are the ones in teams spending time in the company and pouring through the books. The internal auditors even more. So you listen to the auditors, you listen to the internal auditors, those are the defense mechanisms which give you a feel as to how things are. And if you find one instance, two instances, you have to realize that there is never one cockroach in the kitchen. There's always far more. And you then start probing. You look at what the finance presentation is. And then you correlate that with what the auditors are saying, what the internal auditors' findings are. And that gives you an overall comfort that the financial reporting is right. The audit committees and boards, though the board signs off on the financial statements, in reality, they don't spend time with the checklist to see whether it complies with the accounting standard in terms of disclosures, whether the numbers tie up or whether they add up, etc. They rely on the finance function and particularly the statutory auditors heavily as far as that is concerned.
Very well said, sir. I think